Welcome to the channel. For those that are new to the channel, my name's Stuart, and with my wife Jane, we share our adventures in Harry, our Ford AutoCamper campervan. Well, we just got back from our latest trip, and I'm starting to collate all the material, ready to start building those videos and sharing those videos with you. We actually went to Ireland on a winter trip. So we were away for 63 days and nights. We couldn't believe it either. So it's our longest trip so far. Believe it or not, we managed to do all of those 63 nights off-grid, or wild camping, or free camping, or however you refer to it. When we set out on the trip, we had no idea whether we could manage that. But as it got into the trip, it became easier and easier. Admittedly, it was a winter trip. It was out of season, so that's just how we like it. So that made things a bit easier when it come to off-grid parking. So why did we do it? How did we do it? And what do we gain from doing it? So stay tuned, as this video will share and summarise how we did that. And that might be useful to you if you're maybe thinking of planning a similar trip, or whether you just want to perhaps add more wild camping into the trips that you do. So just stay with us and we will share how we wild camp.
So as you can see, I'm just getting Harry ready for our next trip. We're only going away for about 12 days, I think. And as always, it's horrible when you get home from a long journey and emptying the van and then setting it up again. Nobody likes that bit, do they? We've done 2 trips to Ireland now, 18 weeks, 4.5 months, so that's given us the perfect opportunity to get to know it so well. And the first series was down the south coast, and it was a bit of a hybrid trip. We did about 6 campsites, I think, and the rest of the time, which was about 50 nights, was free camping or wild camping, whatever you like to call it. So why off-grid camping or free camping, whatever you like to call it? And quite simply, we fell in love with it. The rawness of waking up, and any of you that do it will know what I'm talking about, but just the beauty of waking up in such fantastic places, or being there at dusk, you know, it sort of puts it on a whole new level. And we quite often found ourselves driving down those back lanes and discovering some amazing local history, and you'd turn a corner and be presented with a view that was just absolutely breathtaking. And of course, Ireland also delivers some amazing weather fronts, and we had it all. We had it all. The snow, winds up to sort of over 70 miles per hour. Yeah, it does 4 seasons in a day. And I've got to say, occasionally we have had sleepless nights because we perhaps not parked in the right place and it's very windy, and you know, but we still loved it the next morning. And also, off-gridding in Ireland, it gives you solitude and a sense of adventure as well, which, you know, a lot of people that are out in vans, that's what we love. We just love the solitude of it.
I'm trying to keep up with the walking since we got back from Ireland, as we enjoyed it so much. It was great for fitness, but it's also great for mental well-being, to be perfectly honest. So let's talk budget. After all, we all have one. I think, as far as we're concerned, there's a bit of a misconception that if you're off-grid parking, you're somehow cheating on paying out. We don't feel that's true, and I'll explain why. We have an annual budget. We spend all of that annual budget. Sometimes we spend more than our annual budget on travel. We leave all our money out there wherever we go. So it all goes, at least 100% of it goes. By off-gridding, for us, it just really simply allows us to stay out in the landscape that bit longer. So simply, we were able to discover and see more of Ireland than if we could do if we were paying to stay on a site every night. Quite simply is that 63 nights at 15 to 25 euros a night, we just couldn't afford it. So we have to strike a balance of how we spend that money. Good job, put my boots on today. I know some people will possibly disagree with me here, but we like to spend our money in a variety of ways, and leaving our money trail, if you like, with multiple businesses, whether it be cafes, restaurants, shops, attractions, etc. If we did that just on the site and we paid to stay on the site, it would probably restrict us quite a bit of what we did outside of the site. We may not be able to afford to go to that cafe every day, or to the restaurant, or to the bar, etc. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying don't stay on sites, absolutely not. We stay on sites occasionally. We did that on our first island series, you'll see, where we dropped in on sites because that's where we wanted to be, like Sneem, Alais, or where we wanted to use the facilities. We just like to spread our money around a bit, and that's just because of our circumstances.
So what we found on our second trip to Ireland is that we met so much more local people than we did the first time, and I think that just comes with confidence of travelling round and you know, getting a bit braver, I guess. And you couldn't meet a nicer bunch of people, and as Stu said, it's very much a heads up culture and not a heads down culture, and by that he means people have their heads up and they say good morning, hello, what you doing. Yeah, we've never really experienced that. And they were genuinely interested, and they gave us some great places because they've got local knowledge. In fact, one of the best sites that we saw while we were in Ireland just came from a chap that walked over to us while we were in the pub, and he was like, you have to go here, it's an amazing view. And if he hadn't have said that and we hadn't been speaking to local people, we would never have known that. And it's also good for the soul because you don't feel cut off.
This trip had less planning than most trips. I'm gradually letting go of that planning mode. We had a general sense of direction where we were heading in Ireland, in as much as we were landing at Larne, we were going through the north of Northern Ireland and then passing into the Republic of Ireland and really just hugging the coast, but also coming inland as and when. So one of the things that wild camping allows you to do is to be more flexible. That allowed us to make decisions on the day to stay. Let's stay here a bit longer, let's explore this area, or actually let's move on, this isn't doing it for us. Whereas if you maybe have pre-booked sites, you might be more inclined to be at a certain place at a certain time because of that booking. Obviously you can hopefully turn up on sites as you go, that may work as well, but that may not be an option to you in certain places and certain times of the season as well. We predominantly used Park for Night app when we were off-gridding. We found that the best way, but you've got to be careful because sometimes Park for Night doesn't mean to say it's a site that suits you or a location. So what suits one person doesn't suit another person. We often came to a place where we weren't comfortable, so we simply moved on. We'd often plumb 2 or 3 potential park-ups into the sat-nav, so that way it takes away the stress of those park-ups and finding those park-ups in the evening. So yeah, Park for Night, you definitely want to look at the reviews, look at to see if there are any commonality with things that's wrong about the site and what people thought about the site. What I also tend to do is, having chosen a couple of sites, I will then take the coordinates, plumb that into Google and go into Street View and just have a look in the surrounding area. You know, is it right by a house, or you park right in front of somebody's house? Because that's not something we would do, to be perfectly honest. So we use that approach really just to make sure it looks okay. I think the other thing is, you know, park-ups aren't always photogenic. Sometimes they're very functional places, you know, and therefore you have to accept that when you're wild camping. You know, go to those attractions during the day and just find a park-up at night that's possibly less photogenic. Of course, when you come across those ones that are really nice, then you should stay in them, you know, if you can, if it feels right. And we found actually more of our fair share of those in Ireland when we were travelling, so we were lucky. And also being out of season made it a bit easier as well.
So surviving in what's essentially a box, 5 metres by 2 metres, when you're doing like 60-day trips, you're going to get your ups and downs. And finding your own space in a van can be challenging. So walking, looking out at the landscape, it's really good for your mental well-being when you're that close, living that close with somebody. So we only have one rule in the van, and that's don't make a rash decision about whether you go home or not if something's not going great at the time. And we always leave the decision to the following day. And it's always, no, we carry on. So just some days you have to stick with it a little bit more than other days.
So if your approach is going to be off-grid, then you need to have a van that's going to allow you to do that. We've got quite a modest setup in Harry. We've got a lithium battery that allows us to keep off-grid for several days. We've also got the portable battery, the Bluetti, that we use, which has been quite essential for us for charging, because I've got a lot of photographic gear, etc., but also cooking. We've got LPG. We use the My LPG app to find out LPG places. In Ireland that was a bit more scarce to get those locations, so you've got to make sure you make the most of it when you find a place. But we had, I say, we were supplemented by the electric, so that allowed us to do some off-grid cooking, as you will see when we share those videos with you. We've got solar, although we didn't use it too much in the winter in Ireland, of course, but it's an essential thing to recharge the battery. But also the DC to DC charger we've got attached to the alternator that charges the lithium battery really fast and efficient, especially on the shorter journeys. That's really important to us, because we don't do big long journeys between stops. We tend to do very short journeys, so we need to maximise that time. So if you're doing winter trips and things like that, you need to have some form of heating. We've got a diesel heater in Harry that just simply feeds off the fuel tank, and that worked really well. So let's talk some of the practical elements of water, personal hygiene, toilet, laundry, and of course highly debated topic when you're in the Republic of Ireland, and that of rubbish management.
So water consumption when we're away, this is what we wash in, which makes me laugh because it costs more than all of our pans put together, our cooking pans, but it's really good and it folds down to nothing. And then that's what I wash my hair in, probably 2.5 litres of water. And it's amazing how little you can use when you're washing your hair. It's taken us a long time to get a system going where it's okay to do it, and it's fine now. We don't even think about it. We're just like, oh, I've got to wash my hair and it'll be a 10-minute job now. We buy 5-litre bottles while we're away. We've got 2 40-litre tanks, one for water, one for waste. But we were out in winter and we didn't want to risk using them, so we were quite happy to use the 5-litre bottles of water. Also, washing up, we've got down to a fine art. We probably use half a little kettle's worth, maybe 2 mugs. And again, it's amazing when you have to, what you can do. You know, you don't need as much as you think you're going to.
So we hardly generated any wastewater, as you will see in our videos in Ireland. But if you use the Park for Night app, then they've got service locations which are really useful for the dropping of grey waste, black waste. There wasn't that many in Ireland, but there was enough, so you've got to use them when you see them. With respect to toilets, then you just got to use the public loos when you see them. Obviously, you're going into cafes, bars, restaurants, then just use them where they are. That'll just help you manage that side of things as well. As you know, if you follow the channel, we don't use any chemical loos. I think if you did, then probably using a site, certainly in Ireland, you may need to be doing it for that, because you shouldn't be dumping waste for obvious reasons, so don't get doing that. So we use the water bottles for drinking and cooking for a pee bottle. We don't use chemicals, as I said, so we just pour that down into public loos, as it's just it's just urine at the end of the day. With respect to number 2s, as you may know if you follow the channel, we use the Bivvy approach, and again that waste management is relatively easy to manage the way we approach it. If you have got chemical loos, do not, certainly in Ireland, use them in public loos to dump. There'll be a lot of signs around doing that, because a lot of them, they'll have certain systems behind that they don't want to have those chemicals down the loo, so make sure you follow that, make sure you appropriately dump that in the appropriate place. Like I said, if you go on Park for Night, you may find service areas that will allow the dumping of black waste when you're out on the road.
So the difference between our first trip and our second trip, the reason we stopped on campsites for 5 nights was the laundry. On the second trip we started to use the Revolution laundries, and it's just completely stress-free. It costs you about €20. We always take enough clothes to maybe last us 2.5 weeks. And again, it's so easy to do while you're on the road. And they're everywhere, which is even better. The one thing I would suggest is just take as much as you can that you can stick in a tumble dryer. because you don't want your van looking like a laundrette for a day.
So if we talk about rubbish in the Republic of Ireland, it's a big topic because they don't have general waste bins. That's the approach they take, and you need to respect that. It's as simple as that. They'll have litter bins with very small openings. That is for litter, and what they class as litter is exactly that. It's your sweet wrappers, it's etc. It's not there to put your general waste in it, and there'll often be signs that will tell you that. So like I said, you need to follow that. Quite simply, having toured Ireland now a couple of times, the simple way is to use the civic amenity sites where you have to pay per bag. You know, it's probably about between €5 and €9 a bag we were paying this trip. That's for a big full bag. We only had, because we've got a small van, we only had half a bag, and quite often they would either waive the fee at times or charge us half price for that. So if you tell them how much you got and show them how much you got, and we just simply stored a bit of rubbish on for 3 or 4 days, and then we dropped that at a civic amenity site, and it just took all the hassle about travelling in Ireland with respect to rubbish management. It's sunny.
Here he is. It's gone really warm.
Yeah. So that's how we manage 63 nights off grid. Of course, you, as I've said, you might decide to do a hybrid approach, and we do that sometimes, where you do a bit of wild camping and also you'll stay on sites. I think the key thing is, if you are going to wild camp, it does come with some responsibility of respect. I think,
definitely. You know. LNT is a good code to follow. Leave no trace. I mean, you'd think it's just common sense, but actually for some people it appears not to be. And we always like to try and hopefully leave a place a bit cleaner than when we found it.
Yeah, and we've mentioned some things, you know, to do is that things like, you know, obviously don't be dumping, you know, toilet chemicals. I think we've given you an option for rubbish, especially in the Republic of Ireland. So we're giving you an option of how we do that. Yeah. So I think that's something you should consider doing if you are going to wild camp. And then there's the other things about, you know, respect of when you're parking in an area, you know, respect for that area, respect for the locals. Definitely. I mean, I don't think you should overstay too long. I don't think you should set up camp while camping for days on end. Very rarely we'll go above 2 days, put it that way, and quite often we don't do that.
And we don't sit outside the van.
No, so I wouldn't say you can't do that, but it's got to be the right place. We have done it occasionally, but it's got to be the right place. But it's no use being in a car park setting up your tables and chairs.
But we haven't put the awning out or anything like that. You know, we never stay if we're near somebody's house. Yeah. It's just common sense.
Common sense stuff and that. And, you know, if there's too many vans there, you know, maybe move on to the next location if there's too many people congregating in the one place. So we will be sharing the detailed details of our trip. That will be coming up shortly. So look out for that. So please, you know, click on that subscribe button. You might want to check out subscribe if you think you're already subscribed, because I know YouTube occasionally apparently has been unsubscribing people. So just check that out now. And if you think you're subscribed, then just double check on it and give us that like button. And we'll see you in the next episode.
Yeah, see you
then.